effectivement, s'ils étaient amenés à faire de nouvelles...
They are not, since you were in the meeting with two leaders. Nous avons beaucoup discuté de l'impérieuse nécessité
We talked a lot about the absolute necessity of acting on a humanitarian level.
Détérioration sérieuse de la situation.
We can see the serious deterioration of the humanitarian situation.
L'ensemble des mesures possibles pour garantir l'accès aux équipements.
And the importance of developing measures to guarantee access to equipment and humanitarian aid, food, water, electricity, medicines. We need to be very active, including with humanitarian corridors, humanitarian pauses, to allow the humanitarian aid to be delivered.
Pour permettre à l'aide d'arriver vers ses destinataires. Since day one, we are extremely active at the diplomatic level. On a beaucoup discuté.
We talked a lot about the important commitment to the two-state solution.
Cet important engagement pour la solution à deux États.
During the meeting, we decided to affirm the European Union's support for an international peace conference, which should take place soon.
D'une conférence internationale sur la paix qui devrait pouvoir se tenir bientôt.
Crisis. Last week we heard the President of the Council.
Israel is a democracy attacked by Hamas, a terrorist organization. Israel has the right of self-defense in line with international law and international humanitarian law. There was a strong call from the leaders that Hamas must immediately release all hostages without any preconditions. And it was clear that through its terrorist activities, Hamas is also bringing harm to the Palestinian people. Hamas has provoked a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. For the Commission, it's very important that we continue to intensify our efforts to deal with the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The aid needs to reach Gaza unhindered and quickly.
These humanitarian crises. And the question on...
And I think it is important that we acknowledge the pain and the suffering of the Israeli people and the families that lost relatives or where relatives are hostages. If we want to speak to Israel and influence Israel. And therefore, it is so important that you first listen if you want to be listened to.
It was the absolute minimum of what was needed. And now today...
If you look at the figures and if you look at the topics, it's the bare minimum, and that is necessary. I mean, Ukraine is self-explanatory. Migration, everybody knows that for example, external action we are doing with partner countries, we need more funding. The natural disasters and humanitarian aid, I do not have to explain how difficult the situation is. And we should not forget, we planned the budget in 2020, so you have all the slices every year for 7 years fixed. There is not a lot of flexibility in, and the important topic of competitiveness, which is STEP. There was a broad, I would not say 100%, but a broad support more or less for these priorities. Yes, you are right.
So, first topic today. Israel has a right to defend itself, to defend its population. Israel has the right to take actions to prevent future terrorist attacks. And that means that if Hamas continues with the terrorist attack, they have the right to target on Hamas. I think that's logical. But that can never be an excuse for indiscriminate actions. It can never be an excuse for blocking Gaza. It can never be an excuse for blocking humanitarian access to Gaza. And the humanitarian access needs to happen. Today, but let's be clear about this. Today, Hamas has two types of hostages. They have 222 hostages from Israel, but they're also taking the population of Gaza as a hostage. And so Israel has obligations, but Hamas has obligations also in liberating people.
We mightn't use the exact same language as the United Nations uses, but I hope we will, as the European Union, call for a humanitarian ceasefire, a humanitarian pause. I'm not obsessed about what language we use. What we want is the killing and the violence to stop so that humanitarian aid can get into Gaza, where innocent Palestinian people are suffering, and also to allow us to get EU citizens out. And we have about 30 Irish Palestinian citizens in Gaza.
Thank you, President. First of all, Hamas must be stopped. There must be an unconditional release of all hostages, while at the same time they are not mutually exclusive. We have to allow for humanitarian aid to alleviate the toughest of consequences that we are seeing on innocent civilians in Gaza. That is why in the European Parliament's resolution last week we called for a humanitarian pause. This should not take our attention away from Ukraine, and this is exactly what Putin would want. We need to continue to help Ukraine militarily and financially.
We're meeting today with the European Council in times of great upheaval. We see that the Russian war in Ukraine is raging. We see that the horrible terroristic attacks by Hamas on Israel are now also harming the Palestinian people and risk to destabilize the region. Migrants are pushed to search for a better life by war and conflict and come to our shores in greater numbers. With all these challenges, the European Union needs to react and act united and resolute. The Commission is acting decisively. We are providing Ukraine in a steadfast manner with the support it needs to resist the aggression of Russia. We are providing crucial humanitarian aid to the civilian people in Gaza. We're working very hard with the member states to manage migration. All this needs funding, and this is the reason why I've proposed a revision of the EU budget to be able to fund these very important tasks. This will be discussed in this European Council, and we'll see where we're going. Thank you.